Welcome, everyone. This is going to be the Breaking the Rules workshop. I am Bo Pratt. I work at Animation Mentor. I am a community curator, I guess you could say, at the school. Basically, I help all the student interaction and make sure the students have everything they need. And today I'm going to be helping out and co-hosting this session. And for anyone who doesn't know, Animation Mentor is an animation school that specializes in 3D character animation and game animation. Now, for today's workshop, we have Barry Rooney, who is going to be going over the awesome topic that we have today, which I'm super excited for. And then we also have a second topic that we're going to be going over, which is going to be a talk with Animation Mentor's student success team, Tim and Mars. So if you have any questions about the school, definitely feel free to stick around and ask them there. They are going to be super helpful. So with all that out of the way, let me actually pass it over to Barry, who will take over and actually share all the awesome stuff that you're here to learn.
Man,
So
that's a heck of a thing to be saying right now. What a build up, what a build up.
I'm
Awesome.
putting the expectations high.
Let's go. I like the bar high. I think that's great. Awesome, Bo. Thank you so much, dude. Um, yeah, this I will say, like, it sounds like there's a grip of people here. I wish there's sometimes I wish like we were just like in an auditorium. Animators are like the most lively bunch of people. Like, we're like acting stuff out, like probably in restrooms, in front of mirrors, at work. People just walk in trying to wash their hands, and animators are just amazing, right? And so just so you know, like as I'm giving this presentation, I am going to be you guys are going to be like the best audience ever in my mind. Like every joke I make, y'all are like laughing so hard. The Every time I'm like at some dramatic pause, you're all going to just be like waited like right on the edge of your seat. And then, whatever. Big applause every time I make a thing. So I just want to thank you in advance for being the best audience I've ever talked to. So thank you so much. Um, but in all seriousness, I when I was preparing this material, I was getting really excited about it. I was talking with Bo a little bit before. Um, you know, I think just as someone that like is an animator, I've gone through this journey of animation. I was getting excited to think about like how in some small way this material can help unlock you to reach your full potential as an artist. That is it's just a thrilling thing. There's nothing more thrilling than empowering the artists I've had the privilege to lead to achieve this incredible like creative work. It's one of the things I love about Animation Mentor. Is why I do what I do. So yeah, super excited. All right, enough words. Let's get into the presentation. Let's look at cool videos. Share. Boom. All right. Let me organize a few windows here. Okay. Um, yes, when and how to break reality. That's the topic um that I have got, right? And um yeah, I think let's just jump into a little bit about me. Because wait, I love to talk about me. No, I'm just kidding. That's partially true. That's partially true. My name is Barry Rooney. I'm a senior animation manager at Riot Games, working in the R&D department. I've been animating for over 25 years across gameplay, cinematics, and I mean just anything in between. Um, over here on the right are some. I literally like looked to the right when I said that. That's great. Um, these are some titles I've been fortunate enough to work on. Yeah, why am I? I think that this is that moment when like a speaker comes up and they talk about like, oh, here's all my things, and here's my street cred. I mean, like whatever. I mean, that is true, but I think in the end, the why share that? For this topic specifically, I think there's this common thread throughout all the time that I was in those studios, and that is just really studied what it takes to make something look real, um, break it in a way that feels like just killer, but real. And like whether you're working in film or games or commercials, we've all hit this moment where the reference that we shoot just doesn't feel right, right? Like it's missing something. And that's not a failure of us shooting the reference. That's just that is literally like our job as animators, right? Um, Animation's real power isn't in mimicking reality. Uh, it's in transforming it into something that feels just incredible for our audience. That is what it does. Um, so whether I was, working with cinematic teams, gameplay teams, the central question always was the same. How do we make this moment feel right? And 9 times out of 10, you have to break reality to get there. All right, let's look at some cool art. I think everybody here has seen this thing, right? You've seen it before. It's beautiful. It's emotional. It's unforgettable. It's incredible, right? But I guarantee you, it's also completely broken from a realism standpoint, and that's exactly why it works. Um, you know, it makes it unforgettable because they break that reality, but they break it with purpose. And like you could see a lot of things that are going on in here. But I promise you, like, there's all this noise that's happening, but they are very clear in what they want to communicate. They make sure that emotion is felt, and they make sure that the whole thing is just impactful. Um, Anyways, let's get into look at some more things. I love frameworks. Frameworks are great. Frameworks help me understand, why we do what we do. And so I'll start with the why. When we talk about like breaking reality, it's not about just realism versus stylization. That is a bucket to talk about, but probably beyond this scope, right? Like those are things that'll happen like over the course of like an animation style guides or whatever that is. Um, we are talking about something different, how to break it, but to be have these intentional choices that enhance clarity. That's kind of like what the audience is supposed to see. Emotion, that's what they're supposed to feel, and impact, what they are really supposed to remember. These are the three pillars on how we know like when we want to try to break the rules and then why it will work when we do. All right, I'm gonna date myself. I could just go in like some of those pillars real quick, but I will say like the how is a critical part, like why and how. And as I go through these examples, I will talk about how we do these things, but I want you to understand the framework of how, right? I love the Matrix, right? It's fantastic. The scene is really great, and we need to realize as animators the truth of the situation. There is no spoon, right? Like that character that you have in front of you isn't real. We can do whatever we want with it, right? Our job isn't just to replicate, reality. It's to understand it well enough. And that is the key. We understand it well enough to bend it. When something's not working, when the movement doesn't read or it doesn't, have the emotional impact that you're looking for, it's not about reworking the reality to make that happen. It's not pushing that harder. It's knowing like when to let go, right? When to let go and bend the reality around you to achieve your goals. We control the truth. And because I want y'all to know I have a meme game. The We control the truth. We manipulate that truth to communicate those things: clarity, emotion, and impact. Um, but it's never random, right? It's always in service of what we're wanting the audience of our art to experience. And lastly, I think this is just, whatever. This feels like it's probably boring. You're like, God, baby Barry, how? What are the secrets? It's the 12 principles of animation. I mean, I will just tell you like straight up, this is our toolkit. Um, these principles weren't designed just to create, beautiful animation. They are our toolkit to how we communicate through motion. I mean, that is what we do. We communicate through motion. Every time we exaggerate something, we stretch it, we slow it. We have these slow in, slow outs, the appeal. We are bending some sort of reality to tell the truth more clearly. Um, so really, like I cannot emphasize enough how understanding the principles of animation and using those as your tools will help you achieve these goals. And I'll show you how like these are applied in various animations. Okay, clarity. Let's get into this. Bo, you're great. Real doesn't mean readable. Real motion can be messy, right? It can be slow. It can have way too much going on. And if we animate what's real without shaping it for communication, we're just kind of trusting the audience to interpret that chaos, right? Our job is to create reality, or sorry, our job isn't to create reality, it's to communicate ideas through that motion. This is why we push poses. This is why we hold anticipations, we bend the timing. It's it's not to just be like, I don't know, like I'm an animation flex, I can flex, right? Like look at the things that I know. It's to be clear. That's what we want to do. So let's look at some cool art. I think everybody has probably seen this Overwatch stuff. Obviously, I work in gameplay, so a lot of my references are going to be gameplay centric. This is, beautiful work with McCree here, but you can start to see some of these truths come in with a clarity. When you see like if that elbow was bent in a way that didn't watch that head come through, there would have just been this flash. It would have been just kind of gross from the motion standpoint. This decision to do this amped up the clarity of that experience, right? Obviously, it's all fast, animation moves fast, but it's in those moments that we can be very clear. Uh, Here's an attack from Braum. You can see all kinds of stuff happening here, right? Obviously, like again, there's some style choices, right? Like that league, is like, cool, we're cool with doing these things. But within that context, they they ramp up the clarity here, right? You can see that anticipation and the shield that goes to the top and those held frames with that long stretch, right? And obviously this is isometric view, so there's other things at play when the actual game is working, but all of it is in service of clarity. Hammond, this guy is great. I love this little Overwatch example. It's just beautiful animation, anyways. You have this hard object, right? Like the little case, little robot thing that he gets in. That's very stiff, and then he is just spinning around that all fluid and amazing. But right, like that motion helps us to clearly like see like the path, the arcs, the trajectory that he's going on, right? It acts almost as this motion blur to clean that up, right? And I'm gonna go. This is way in the vault. This is something I did. God, I think this was my first gameplay animation like forever ago. I was working on Ghostbusters. The rig was limited. I was like, whatever, I need to do something, right? I had this Slimer taunt that I had to do. And I just had, I never had seen, I just seen Slimer in the movies, right? He's just this little puppet. He couldn't do any of this stuff. Um, if I was to stay with truth, I would have just stayed there, right? And just moved him around, done something, tried to retain who he was. But here I was like, man, what can I do like to push this guy to create some motion, to create some clarity in the player is going to sit across the screen and see him taunting like, oh, I noticed this thing, right? Like this is what's happening. So, anyways, yeah, this is old school stuff, but nevertheless, it always makes me happy to see it. Um, okay, clarity. Ask yourself when you're creating your animation, ask yourself these questions. Like if you're kind of stuck, like thinking about like what needs to be clear. Um, what does the audience, right? What do they need to know right now, right? What is the thing they need to know? What is in the way of that goal? And then what truth do I need to bend to resolve that conflict? That's a great framing for how you may want to approach like understanding like what's clear, right? Like what are you trying to make clear? Um, this framing will free us from just copying reference and start pointing us towards intentional creative design. And just a word about reference. Reference is incredible. It helps us understand like the truth, right, of what's going on. Um, but I think that's just like that's level one. Level two is taking that, and now as an animator, you find out your launching point, like where you want to go, what you want to do, and how you want to, diverge from that moment, right? And a lot of that is in service of these more like creative goals. Okay, emotion. Um, Real doesn't always connect. You know, just Anchorman. Gosh, where am I at? Okay. We don't break reality. We don't just break reality for clarity. We break it to make people feel something, right? Um, this is why we push things like timing, we stretch poses, we cheat, the reality of the world. The motion like lives in those distortions, right? the emotion lives in those distortions, and that's what connects like the audience to what's happening. We want to make people feel something, and a lot of times when we do this, this works. I'll give you a film example here. I saw this a while back from an animator friend of mine. He had done this shot, and this is, this is some kind of like it's an amazing shot that was, a very emotional impact. But under the hood, under the hood, it was like this. These arms are like super stretched out, and they were going for like this feeling of like, if I can remember correctly, like this claustrophobic kind of thing. The camera was at a certain lens and it was pushing things forward and back, and this is what he needed to do to like achieve like the eye line and everything that needed to happen in that moment. Yeah, it's tricksy for sure, but it's a great way to know like we don't have to stay to reality, right, to achieve that goal, right? Like we got to be able to be comfortable with that. Um, this is an animation I did. It's not as like impactful as that, but there is this moment where I really wanted to make this character feel like aggressive, right? Like this growl is supposed to be incredible. His jaw, like the jaw, is very, it's very solid in what you're doing, right? I really wanted to push that and emphasize, like what was happening right there in that moment. And then allow for this little shaky shake, right? But again, it's about what I want the audience to feel, right? Like when they're seeing this, like obviously there's like all this crazy cool growl and it sounds amazing, but it's just a GIF right now. So you have to believe that it has something going on there. Um, So these are some questions you can ask yourself about emotion. What do you want them to feel in the moment? What kind of motion or exaggeration will amplify that feeling? And then again, what truth are you willing to break to make them feel it? These are the decisions that separate a technically accurate shot from a moment that hits, right? Like as our audience always remembers like those moments that really connect. And you do not want to be beholden so much to reality that you lose out on this emotion. Break what you need to break to make people feel that. Some of the best animation that I've seen, especially when we were doing in film, you would see people's you know you would see like their shot outside the camera, and I mean it was gross like the bat, I mean just it was in, I don't even know what was going on. But they were breaking all of that to deliver something impactful. Speaking of impactful, let's talk about this. I'm going to show a lot of Marvel Rival stuff. That's like the new hotness right now. I geek out on it. It's great. um Yeah, cool. The clarity gets noticed, emotion gets felt. Impact is what stays with the audience. Um, Obviously, I think you guys can probably feel how all three of these kind of overlap, right? Like in a lot of the animations that I show. Because there are things like where there's the clarity, there's the emotion, there's the impact. So I could probably talk about any of that with this like Moon Knight thing, but I'm choosing the impact part. Um, Yeah, this is the moment that our audience remembers. Impact doesn't come from being accurate. It comes from making these bold, deliberate decisions um, where you just kind of bring them all together. And this is just where the magic lives, right? Like when you're thinking of this through. Let's look at this. Let's look at this Moon Knight thing in slow motion. Um, there's, I could just tell, like the animator really wanted to make sure you felt that last second, right? Like before he just releases this thing, the impact of that throw, um, to hold your eye like a few more frames, right? Like on that pose, um, and the slam down, the squash and the stretch that's happening there. You don't see that as much when you're looking here, but you feel it. You feel those things that are happening. It makes that more impactful. Let's go look at another one. It's an Iron Fist skin. God, these things are like they are killing it over there. They know how, I mean, they are cooking. Yeah, this is great. Seeing all of this, you're like, I feel it, obviously as a core audience member, you're just like, dude, this is amazing. But here it is. Here it is in a slow motion. Again, lots of smearing, lots of held frames, right? Lots of stuff to anchor the eye to in order to make those to make it feel better. Um, great animation all often cheats time, like for rhythm and satisfaction. I'll just be honest. Like you just don't do like if that's just a regular kick, it just doesn't have, you know, just doesn't have the tooth to it. Uh Another Iron Fist one. Again, just cool. I'm gonna slow it down here. Beautiful, beautiful stuff, like what they're doing. Again, I feel like it's almost like I'm doing a talk on breaking reality, but they're breaking reality here, right? They're using those animation principles of squash and stretch, of smearing things, of the hold frames, right? Like these things are anchoring that moment to feel incredible like this. Okay. Oh yeah, I was so impressed with them. I just was like, dude, check these out. Like if you have this as like your thing, like, oh hey, by the way, like animation director, here's where I'm at right now. They'd be like, what is going on? What are you thinking? Um, but right, like these are the choices they're making. I think another part for the impact is these tiny breaks equal big feels. Um, this is important. Um, I think a lot of times animators can get hung up on, well, this is how the thing is supposed to work. Um, I need to play by the rules. So take a look at this slowly with this arrow. You know, I think if you were planning this animation, you would try to be like, I gotta pull this arrow all the way out and then come down. And you're like, well, that's gonna mess up my shot, my camera, right? Like there's a composition that I'm trying to go for. And here, just made the decision like, yo, I'm just gonna have it like just come right out of that that little deal. It's just coming right out. Um, but you don't, when you watch it back, it's fine. It works. Um, Definitely, I think one of the biggest things that you could unhook yourself from is the reality of of all the mechanics that are in the world, and just know like when you're like, hey, that's fine. That's fine. I can cheat this right here, and it's cool. Um, because you're going for that impact of what's happening, the closeness of the shot, all of those things. Um, yeah, frame one, frame two. Again, someone might, say that's broken. You can't do that. Exactly. That is. We break, but we break it on purpose. You don't just go do this. It'll be. Oh, I had there was this talk by Barry. He said I can do this. Don't just go do this like ad hoc. Have a purpose for why you do it. This is animation from one of my good friends. There's all this stuff that's going on. It's beautiful animation. It's one of my most favorite things from the Orc Must Die series. Um, I'm going to slow it down a little bit, and you can start to see where he just didn't care. He did some things right here where that twist happened with that sword and the blade staff, and it just kind of watch this. Who it's all over the map back there. It's not part of his hand, it's moving to the next thing. And then the other one was where the actual staff itself comes down and cuts through the arm right there. Like it doesn't go around, you don't have to plan the animation to go around. Here they are kind of in slow motion, or here they are just in still frames. But you can see, again, you just make calls. Just be, do not, I mean, beat the dead horse, but don't feel like you're beholden to be like, oh, what's the mechanic of this thing? You're like, just make it feel right. Just make it feel right, and it's fine. And then, we'll use your animation in a talk like this one day. All right. Um, let's see. Bringing it all together. Emotion, clarity, and impact. Um, I love asking questions. We already talked about how we don't break reality randomly. We do it on purpose, to create those moments that are clear, emotional, impactful. These are the three questions I think, I hope like you'll walk away with asking, whenever you're animating something, you know, what do I want the audience to feel, know, or understand in this moment? Right? That's having a goal for your animation is so important. like not just like, okay, cool, like here's why I need to animate this person doing this thing, right? Like what's the underlying goal to help you drive like to better animation, right? What principle or exaggeration, what principles do I need to use? What exaggeration do I need to take to make that message land? And what part of reality am I willing to break to make it unforgettable? Um, if you're answering these, you're not just animating, you're directing that experience that you want the audience to feel. Um, yeah, you're not just creating beautiful animation. You can create beautiful animation that's unforgettable. Or sorry, that's forgettable. Um, when you start to bring these things together in that's where things can really like stick for a long time. Um, cool. These are like great examples of just cool stuff. This is from a trailer, the Tournament of Souls that League did. You can see this obviously. You see the bending, the reality that's being broken here for maximum impact, right? And you're gonna see this, and you're gonna be like, "I'll remember this animation." And we've all gone through LinkedIn where we're like, "Oh, cool! Look at this cool animation. Look at this." Why did we say those things, right? I think everyone saw this, has seen this animation, and everyone remembers it. They're just like, "Holy crap! This is like really great stuff." There's, lots of breaking reality in here, right? And making this like making that experience like really land. This is the stuff that you want to get to that moment where your animation isn't just beautiful. Obviously that's what our one of our chief ends, right? Like as an animator. But you want to make these things like just be remembered forever, and break in reality is a way that we can get there. All right. I got to the end. Thanks. I do want to get to like some Q&A stuff. But I do want to thank you for spending time with me today. Best audience ever, right? Like I heard the laughters, I heard all the animators like doing all their things. No, no, this is a terrible joke. The Look, I know we're all trying to like balance things, like we're growing together, like balancing performance, the storytelling, the gameplay needs, all the things, there's all this stuff, right? Um, but I just want something to stick with you as we leave. The best animation doesn't just move, right? It communicates, it connects, and it sticks. And to get there, you almost always have to break something that's real, to reveal something that's true. That sounds so sage. Anyways, that's whatever. Um, Look, just go make some bold choices, like when you're animating. In all seriousness, break a little reality, right? Like along the way, and make some unforgettable art. Um, I'm excited to see how this can unlock people as the way that you think about things, and hopefully this framework just helps you get there. Awesome. That's all I got.
That was fantastic. I loved it. I am also one of those people who will put GIFs and memes in every slideshow or presentation I have to make. So this was just a thing of beauty. I loved this so much. On
If I
top of
could
the
just,
topic, which was also really awesome.
I'm just like, if I don't say any, if there's nothing that lands, at least we're all gonna look at some pretty art,
Yeah,
right? At
exactly.
least we'll have, there'll be that. Mhm.
Yeah. And I also really loved that thing that you mentioned where breaking the animation is something you have to think about and do it with a purpose and not just do it because we can do whatever we want. Yay.
Ex
There's that
exactly.
thought process and those questions, asking yourself those specific questions on why you're breaking it. And it makes all the difference, especially when you see those examples and you can so clearly see when they're exaggerating something and how it makes us feel, or like you
Totally.
said, yeah, that impact.
I mean,
Beautiful.
I mean, it's critical. I mean, I have seen like those animators will be like, cool, I just want to use like all the principles all the time. I'm gonna do everything. Like the whole animation's got like all this just noise going on in it. And you're like, actually, no. If I do this, that's what can separate good animation from great animation, in my mind.
Hmm. Agreed. So we do have quite a few questions here, so
Yeah.
we can jump right into those. We've got a lot of questions regarding the posing and thought process that goes behind the breaking of and exaggerating of the rigs.
Yeah.
So let's try to get through as many as we can here. The first one we have is one thing I struggle with when pushing poses is keeping the appeal. Do you have any recommendations on how to improve this and get better at posing in general?
Um, that's a good question. I think just pose. I mean, so I think there's like two aspects of posing, right? There's the one where like, if I go, I'm still here. Let's go to look at some poses. There's a pose like this that ends, that Iron Fist ends on, right? There's that kind of pose, the still pose. Um, that's going to be very different than these kinds of poses, right? Like these are going to be like your breakdowns or your in-betweens or something like that like actually feel some motion. Um, but in general, like how I would get better at, just like those still poses like that, A, you do that a ton, right? You got to just do that. You got to be posing a lot. And then go look at where are we at? Those animation principles. Where is when you think about like appeal, um, things that go underneath of that, things like, understanding like why a pose is like beautiful, right? Like the line of action. You've got like one side that's going to be complex, one side that's going to be simple, right? Like uh these are important those are all like the important like frameworks like to make like a strong pose. And I would say like through that process you want to make sure too that you're looking at like reference, and this is where like I think reference is very powerful, is that you can become you're going to understand more about like how the natural body moves, uh and then you'll be able to like extract like framework from that. I think one of the things that I'll see a lot of students do is then they'll pose like a character that's kind of bent over, and they're using like they put all their weight on one leg. They'll kind of take one of those that leg and they'll kind of bend it back underneath of them a little bit. And you'll notice actually usually when all that weight is there, that leg is usually like perpendicular to the ground, like in reality. You don't have it like this. Your shin is gonna like become like so painful, like holding your weight up. And so it's like walking away with like why? Why is the person standing that way? And then you take that and you can amplify that in your work. You can be more creative, right? You can push and exaggerate. And then when you get to stuff like this, whereas you get to stuff like this, you really are thinking in this space about timing and spacing, right? Like this is probably like the real critical thing because you're like, hey, I want like parts of the body to move further, but other stuff to lag behind. And then you're using this as like a tool to create that pose, right? But you're coming through that framework. Like, this big the image on the right where his leg is like all the way stretched down. That animator wanted the upper body, that whole upper area, to be up here on the screen, but he still wanted this down here. Again, to hold that timing and the spacing that's happening here. You can't have them both. You can't just be like, cool, I want this foot down here, so let me bring this down. You're like, you can't do this because you're gonna lose that. But again, you're using that principle to kind of help guide you. So, anyways, those are it's application of like principles in that way, but I mean, really understanding like why you do what you do. I think that's like really, really key.
That's a really good answer. It's especially the part of just understanding the principles. Like you were saying earlier, even in the talk, those principles they're not just there as random 12 things. They are the building blocks on everything. And you can understand them and just apply them in the basic way. But when you understand them fully and you know how everything leads and
Dude,
follows, and it's like the world is just open to you.
it for sure, Bo. Like, I mean, I think level one is like you go get the reference and you rotoscope it and you do your thing. And you're like, but you don't understand, right? Like when you do that, you're like, you don't understand why. Like the things are in the hood. The world opens up to you as you start to apply those things. And you're like, but then here's how I can like push this a little more and push that a little more. And that's how you get to this level of animation. It's great. It's great.
Actually, yeah, you mentioned reference right there. And we do have a few questions on reference. So
Yeah.
there's one here. When shooting reference, especially when we're talking about breaking and exaggerating the characters, should I act the normal action or try to exaggerate the moment and I want to focus on? Should I make it more larger than life within the reference, or should I just be doing it realistically and then exaggerate from there?
That's a really good question. I'm probably going to say that a lot. Anyways, that is a good question. I would never say, oh, that's a dumb question. Anyways, it's a very thoughtful question. I'll use that. You know, I think, I think number one, I would say like, whatever's going to help you reach your goal, right? I'd never take anything off the table, right? Like if you're like, you need to see something in motion, um, that feels like it's more exaggerated because there's something you're trying to figure out, you should do that. I think generally, um, what I have found helpful with reference is understanding, this is going to sound like I'm, you know, talking to my talk, understanding the truth, the body mechanics, the real things that are happening under the hood. Um, that's what I want. That's what I want, right? Like, so if I see like if I'm bringing my arm around, I just want to see like, the understanding of like, oh, what was moving first, what was moving second, how are those things happening? Like, did my body landed first, and then this stayed past, right? Or this was still settling. And so when I see that, then I can now do I can do the creative work. I can be like, well, this landed first, this landed last. Why don't I just, what if I exaggerated that? That to me feels like more of like the way that I would want to do something as opposed to like try to film, like the exaggeration, trying to film something like that. One, you're going to be limited. Two, you're probably going to be thinking about it a lot more, which is probably going to lead you to like improper body mechanics in some ways, which is going to hurt like the truth of, because you do have to have that truth, right? Like you got to have something there. Matrix didn't, or Neo didn't just like grab the spoon and it became something else. It was a spoon. Like at first, you got to have that grounding before you like manipulate. Uh, so if it's helpful to get some of the exaggeration or you're trying to see something, obviously don't let that stop you. But I would just say, as a principle, try to get more of that foundation of the truth of what's going on, and then you're the one that starts to get in the clay and manipulate. I think that's probably the more powerful route.
That's awesome. So once again, it really just comes down to understanding what you're looking at, taking that and then exaggerating, looking at the principles of the body mechanics and how the body moves, and then just going with it.
And then you be the one. You be the
Hmm.
arbiter, right, of the truth. Yeah, I
I
don't know
like
if that
that.
reference is gonna. Yeah, that would be my advice.
And then we have some questions here regarding video games specifically.
Yeah,
How much wiggle room do you have to break the rules in game animation since you don't know the exact angle the user will be seeing the character? Now, there's going to be the difference between the cinematics and the actual in-game gameplay.
absolutely.
Um, so, do you have an answer for either of those?
Oh man, that's the million-dollar question, right? Um, yeah, I think just generally at the game studios I've been at, one of the things that always just kind of comes to the surface is we will, you always kind of animate to like the golden path, like the thing that the user is going to probably experience the most. Um, that's what I'm going for. Like if there's a camera, like if there's like a two-player game, we would see this and another player comes up and looks at this player while you see it in Overwatch. You come up, you're like, oh, let me watch you, like, and you're just sitting there standing, you're like, oh, look at Tracer. She's stretching and she's doing all of her stuff, right? Um, that's players are going to do like what they're going to do. They're going to expose Spy doing the crab walk in TF2 if anybody's seen that. They're going to people going to be people. They are. um so I worry less about that. I worry more about like gameplay clarity, making sure like uh the decisions that I make won't degrade, like an experience, for players, like especially like the user, right? Um, so I would, awesome TF2, you're welcome. The but yeah, I would always, You are limited, I would say, mostly. You're probably limited in that space. But there are places for you to push it because, I mean, a 360-degree view of a character, you have to keep that in mind. Obviously, there's some things like this with this Iron Fist thing. You're like, there's no way you would push it to this end. Um, but that doesn't mean you wouldn't, like, if this is 100%, you could probably go like 20 or 30, right? Like to get something. But it's really just like a scale at that point. But yeah, it's a great question. Gameplay, I'm sure people have heard this, gameplay is king, like in that regard. So you want to make sure that that is the thing that's always like coming through in games when you do your posing.
That's
Great
really
question.
cool. And then since we're talking kind of about the production and the gameplay element of things, we have a question here. When in the production process, do you start to apply the break the rules right at the start in your planning? Oh, and I apologize, my camera has been. I don't know why. I just imagine, pretend
I,
I'm miming it all out.
you're
Uh,
doing amazing. You're like
it's
so
a
suave right now.
it's an improvement, really. Uh,
Stop. No,
so
no.
so when in the production process, do you start applying those break the rules? Do you apply it right from the initial planning and blocking, or is it more something that you build in the later stages? So do you start with more of a regular, quote unquote, mechanical animation that you then push forward, or are you exaggerating right from the start?
Oh, that's I mean, that actually is a really good question. I will be honest. The uh, most likely in a production process, you're going to have something that is like a prototypey kind of animation that you're just using to prove out gameplay. Um, and you're probably not doing that there unless you need it to make gameplay clear. Um, but then when it comes time to actually like produce the animation, like to do it, like you're like, cool, like gameplay is going to be fun and all everything else, then absolutely, yeah. Then I just kind of do like that straight path where I'm like, yes, I am, pushing and pulling in my how I'm going to block, I'm blocking everything out. I'm thinking that whole thing through. But yeah, like that initial, like if you are talking about like a production process, the initial reads always just like prototype with cheap, dirty. I mean, you might even just use like something out of the Unreal store, like just to make something happen, right? Um, but I would not, like again, if you're in that production environment, I would not go, oh, cool, like let me go and do all this stuff right now. I think that's probably going to like slow everything down for your team because that's going to be like a lot of thinking, a lot of problem solving, and a lot of puzzles. That is going to you're going to be able to do that. You'll have more time to do that, like actually when you hit production. But when you actually do the thing, yes, for sure, I would be thinking about all those things. I would be looking for like risks in the animation where I'm like, oh, I got this really cool idea, and I'm going to do like this, stretchy. I'd maybe try to like reduce it down to its most simple parts and start to see if I can't see like how that would feel, right? Before I execute for like a whole week on the thing and then I get it in the game and, it's not great. And people are like, why is that not great? You spent all week on it. So anyways, but those are more like methodologies on how you would want to work, just in a production setting. But yeah, good question.
Awesome. And then just in terms of the production, since we're on that, there was another question here regarding directors. When you're showing a director these ideas, sometimes you're going to have a director that isn't used to animation and would kind of not understand what's going on. So is that something you have to be aware of as you're breaking those rules where you know it's going to work, but you have to be conscious of also how someone else might read that, especially in the production phase?
Yeah, that is, I think for the most part, some of those rules, to people that aren't animators, I think a lot of those things they miss. They don't see. They might see it in a still frame like this, and they might ask these questions. But if you're, if they're just watching this and you delivered this, nobody's going to be, oh, not this one, whatever. Whatever. When it's just playing like full speed, they're not like a lot of this stuff is like hidden behind the thing, right? Like the Hawkeye where the bow comes out. They're gonna miss, most people aren't just gonna miss, they're just gonna miss that. And if someone was asked about it, you would talk to them, but I wouldn't I wouldn't over index on, like I would treat like the people that don't like if there is someone that, and that's really what you're asking, if there's like a stakeholder or someone like that they don't understand like the tools and why you would apply them, treat them like that's like the audience, right? And go do the animation and see if it lands. If they're sitting there like, why is that body all looking like a noodle? Maybe you're doing that too long. You know what I mean? Treat them as a test case. And if it's not landing with there, something feels off there, that's really good feedback. Go back and like kind of think about like maybe you're doing it too long. Maybe it's happening in a way that now the reality has broken so much that it's taking them away from the truth. And you need to go back. So I would usually use that as a test bed. I think one thing I would say is think about your audience and how you show your animation. So sometimes to animators, you can show like all this stuff in like stepped, and they're gonna really understand. They're gonna be like, cool, I see where you're going. You show that to someone that's not an animator, and they're gonna be like, kill it right now. Like, don't do it. You might have to take something a little further. You might have to hold off before you show certain things at certain times. Be mindful of that because, again, our job is to communicate ideas, right? And we want to make sure we're communicating. We got to think about the who's on the receiving end, right? Like if it's just if some, we were just, we were talking about, saying hello in different languages. Um, they may only know a certain language. You got to make sure that you communicate in the language that they understand. It can't be a catch-all, but if you do know that that person needs that, then you do it.
Awesome. I do really love that advice of using them as a test subject to see if it's actually reading to a general audience.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
it's amazing how helpful people who don't have, for lack of a better term, the animation eye, and they're looking at all the animation techniques and the 12 principles, they're just looking at a cool thing.
Yeah.
That's really a great person to
It,
get feedback from.
it is. I mean, you'll be like, they're just like, why does that look so weird? You're gonna be like, sorry. Got it.
We do have some more questions here regarding timing and kind of the feeling of the animation. So
Yeah.
we were talking about posing earlier, but another thing that people are noticing is the rhythm. These shots have such a nice slow and fast, and especially that League of Legends one you showed at the end, where they're holding at the right times, they're
Oh, yeah, yeah,
going
yeah.
quickly at the end. Is there ways of practicing that and enhancing that? Is it similar to like the posing where you're just applying some principles and exaggerating those? Or is there another way that people can practice and improve their timing and rhythm of a shot?
That's that's a very thoughtful question. See how I did that? The um I mean, I think like with anything, like animation is I think about it like like in sports, you'll go and you'll practice. I can, for all my sports people, you can go like and do like some shuttle runs or something like this. Like you're going like back and forth, like really fast, like like if you're playing football and you're going back and forth, like these little lateral drills, and you're just doing that. You just are focusing on this one part. And then when you get into the game and you're doing the thing, you're going to be doing that amongst with all the other pieces, right? And so just like, animation is very much like that in general. Like breaking down like parts of the animation and saying like, I just want to practice this exaggeration, right? You could do this with as something as simple as a ball. You can do these things to start to understand like how you use the tool, right? Like you could be like, I want this to I want this ball to do the same timing as that League of Legends thing where I'm like, I'm up in the air and then I'm just down and I'm out. And you can start to, with just very simply, you can start to look at the curve that you have underneath the hood. You can easily see your timing and spacing. The ball is just very simple shapes, and you can understand that. Honestly, animating is just animating the ball forever. I mean, it really just is. It's just like there's more balls on the screen. That's really it. And then you got to like obviously ground it like in the sense that they're all connected. So you do need to understand the science behind how like how you move. But in the end, it is just that simple. But yeah, what I would do is just like if you were whatever bench pressing, and it's very isolated like this, and then you get into you get into the game and you're running through and you got to push somebody off, right? And you actually do this motion that you've been doing. Obviously, you're building your muscles and everything else, but in animation space, you're becoming familiar with these techniques, and then you start to apply it to like the pose. Um, I think the last thing I'll say is I've seen this a lot. I'll do this from time to time. Um, when I don't have, like, great, I got reference, I can go shoot reference, or I can go get something on YouTube as reference. That animation, where was it? Not here. Then where is this reference coming from? There's no one shooting reference of this. Um, what I think what you can do is like you can just take something like a ball or even like a box and you animate that timing, like the body's going to go over there. And I'll see a lot of people do this like in previs or as they lay out their work. They'll just start with very simple shapes just to get the timing of that. And they'll know like now I got to put the character on there. A lot of times you'll constrain the character to that box just to get that rough timing, right? And then you start to do all the stuff that's underneath the hood. But it allows you to like to visualize the space and then you layer up your animation from there. Anyways, there's lots of techniques. There is no like one right way, but for sure, as you practice this stuff, I think it would be depending on where you're at on your animation journey, um, practicing like with simple things to understand like the technique and now apply it to, understand the body mechanics, and then you bring those two together and now you make something that doesn't exist. Because when we go look at where are we at? Where's the other one? Oh, all the way back to the beginning. I love those memes. This. No, there's no reference for this. You know, this is in someone's mind. There might have been like little clips here and there of like body mechanic stuff that now is applied, but in the end, you know, this was all about like just what we talked about, how you would just layer up this thing to create something that doesn't even exist ever. We don't have this real Spider-Man, although I wish we did.
That is awesome. I especially love the example you're using of just using a bouncing ball and animating that through the scene. I'm a huge proponent of whenever I'm trying to figure out the timing in my scene, just take a ball, animate it through, get the timing, the overall feel, the rhythm, and then just add the character in afterwards. It makes it so easy than trying to move a whole character and rig through
Dude,
the scene and hope that it works.
it's so much easier to break it down that way. I mean,
Yes.
even in this little bitty, it's a sweet little gift that someone made. It's just that's the same thing. They're just doing all this little stuff, and then now you just start to apply it to other things.
Yeah, it's
So keep it. What is it? Kiss. Keep it simple, or you're stupid.
yeah. It
Keep it
really is
simple.
amazing how everything is just the principles and the bouncing ball built up and exaggerated.
Yeah,
That's every scene can just be broken down into that.
exactly, exactly.
Now, kind of since we were talking about breaking it down into those simple things, we have quite a few questions here, quite a few questions of students asking. Um, they are new to the animation industry, they're new to animation in general. Are there best practices? Are there best ways to start working towards understanding these things? Like I know you already mentioned a solid understanding of the principles, which we're on right now, um, and really kind of just building off of that. But is there something that you would recommend, some advice on how to pursue that dream and how to make sure they're on the right path?
Um,
It's a very broad question.
it is a broad question. There's lots of things. I'll answer this maybe like, through this lane. Definitely things like the basics, right? Like, obviously we talked about this. I cannot overemphasize this enough, understanding your toolkit. I mean, a lot of people will just, you could just be like, cool, I can, take some reference, I can copy it, and it's going to look right because like that's the thing. But in the end, like that's not going to differentiate you from the crowd. And it's not going to help your growth like long term because you're going to you're not going to understand why you do what you do. You're just doing. And so there are animators that'll just be so reliant on reference that they don't actually, they can't. They can't do something on their own, like from scratch. Um, and to that end, there's the basics, understanding that really, you know, doing that like every day. Just thinking about like you're working out, like for an hour in the morning, I'm going to apply this with this little ball, and I'm going to just work that muscle, work that your brain around that. Then the second thing, this is like, I guess, level two, is really understanding the body mechanics. Like, obviously, we're talking about character animation here, understanding body mechanics. Why, in the combat class, we'll talk about things like where is all the power coming from on a swing? Like it's the foot, the back foot that's on the ground, creating rotational force to push off, right? Like that's where the energy starts. And then the energy is working its way up through to the hips. Then the hips are going to rotate to amplify, right? To multiply that energy. And then that's going to get to your like obviously your abdomen, then your upper body. The sword is still back here, baby. It's hanging out. It's on vacation. All this other stuff has happened, right? Um, and understanding that, as you pull through, then you're going to bring in the bicep, and now you're going to bring in the actual whip of that, and each of those things has multiplied the energy coming through to that moment of the contact. Um, if you don't understand those things, you're going to see that stuff and you're gonna like misapply it. Like the hip's gonna move first, or you're never gonna like really twist the foot, and then it's not gonna feel. You're like, why doesn't it feel as powerful as it should? Understanding like the basic body mechanics and really just becoming a student of that. That is, I think that level of like where you want to be. Write it down. Write down these things. Open up, there's all kinds of stuff like on how people move, like and how like energy, read this like science stuff. I mean, I've pulled up like science article, like literally science articles. That sounds so like not the thing to say, science articles. But you start to see, like how that stuff like works itself out from like a medical perspective. That's probably what I was looking like medical articles or something. Um, that you become familiar with the thing and then now you can manipulate it. But that's on like an early animation journey. Those are the things you start to take those two things and bring them together, but start simple. I think the worst thing is you just jump in, you get a big character, and you're like, cool, I'm gonna do a thing. I got all this stuff. I got, everything. I got physics and everything else on you, and you're like, bro, there's so many things that are gonna have to be applied to that. You might just get discouraged, or you're trying to balance too much at the same time. Anyways, that's long-winded, but does that help? I feel like it's kind
Yeah,
of similar to that other
I,
answer, but
I feel like it really helps to break it down instead of just trying to start everything like you're saying at the end there. Just take a big character and just move them and do all this crazy stuff. Everything like you've been saying, like we've both been saying throughout this whole thing, is everything breaks down to the core principles. All
it
those
is.
cool things is just a bouncing ball and the principles. And
It is.
understanding
It's
those, it's amazing how much that will grow. And something that I've seen a lot of students do, this more for the drawing side of things, is let's say you're trying to do a drawing and you're just tracing the outline of a reference. And
yes,
by the end, you get something that looks like the reference, but it doesn't have form. It doesn't have
that's totally
life
true.
to it. But if you learn how to draw, oh, the torso is a cylinder and the hips are a box, and then you learn how to connect those and you build those layers up, suddenly you get a drawing that is alive and it looks like the
Yes,
reference, but it's also its own thing. And
totally,
then you can do anything with it.
totally,
Animation is the same thing. If you
100%.
understand those things, it's like everything comes together.
That's a great point, Bo. Honestly, when you were saying this, it made me think of one other thing. Um, Becoming a student of other animation, like going to look at the
Hmm.
animation and taking those two things that you're learning and then trying to break them down, just like we did here in this, where I'm like, so how did they like I know this is true about the body mechanic. Let me see how this really good animation that you believe is like really good. Obviously, just don't grab any animation, but like go grab it and watch and see like what professionals, the decisions that they're making and how they're applying some of those things into the animation, especially like those principles. Obviously, you'll see like you can see like where the body mechanics are broken, because you'll be learning about that. You'll be like, oh man, look, they broke the body mechanic here, but they did it for a purpose.
Hmm.
But then also seeing like how those animation principles are applied, like again, becoming a student of great animation that will start to help triangulate you, in that space. You'll be in that space, but live here in this space. Like, man, just constantly look at that stuff, and you will become. It's kind of like whatever we become what we eat or something. I don't know. Like I eat a carrot and I become orange. That's that thing. That is. I don't even know if that is true. That is true. Anyways.
As someone who did turn orange when I was very young from eating too many carrots, yes, it is true. It's keratinitis.
That's the science. That's the science
Yes.
right here. It's awesome.
Just on that point that you were mentioning there, something that I found helpful when I was a student is exactly that, analyzing, looking at those other animations with the like, oh, how did they apply it? And really, to what you had mentioned earlier in the talk, is ask the questions. Don't just watch and go, oh, that's cool. Ask why. Why did they do this? Why are they making this choice? And do the same
Absolutely.
with your own animations of, why am I doing this? Why am I choosing to do this? As soon as you
Yes.
ask questions and try to answer them, it's amazing how fast you can learn.
Yes. I mean, gosh, so much. You hit that. I mean, you hit the nail on the head, dude. That is for sure. That is how you're going to accelerate. You will accelerate. Just not just looking at saying like, oh, I saw like this cool animation. Now I want to just go do something similar. Like asking all those questions, dissect that, and now you become like equipped. It's you got a toolkit. You got like you're showing up to the party with all your that sounds all your stuff, right? Whatever. I was gonna say like ammo and goods. Maybe it's like your party streamers and your cocktails, and you're like, I'm ready to go. I can make all the drinks. It's terrible. I don't even know what the age is here.
You gotta get ready for Mai Tais and margaritas at any point.
Gotta be ready. We gotta be ready to party. That's what you're about to have, a party, an animation party. I wish we were all together to have an animation party. That'd be great.
That would be a lot of fun. All a bunch of animators partying in the same room. That is a recipe for
That's
an
gonna be
awesome
great.
time. It's
It's
going
gonna
to
be
be
great. Get the
fantastic in a
cameras
lot of
out. There's
different
gonna be some
ways.
reference. There's gonna be some
Yes.
some real reference that we can never get anywhere else.
Well, we are at time here for the talk. Thank you so much for doing this. This was absolutely amazing. Again, I love memes and slideshows, so that sold me right from the start. But on top of that, the talk was absolutely fantastic. I really loved how you emphasized the core principles as much as like we're talking about advanced animation here, like really
Yeah.
breaking things down and leading the audience's eye in creative ways. It all boils down to the very core 12
Yeah.
principles.
Which I will say that should be encouraging to everybody. It's
Hmm.
not like there's some kind of like, I don't know, we got to climb to the top of Mount Everest. Get what Nacho Libre, get the little the eagle powers. It's simple. It's right here in front of you. You got everything that you need to go be
Hmm.
great.
Yeah, it's not like there's going to be, you learn these 12 but then there's 1600 afterwards that you have to get to. No, these 12 and you're good.
That's it. You're good. Just gotta do it a lot. Gotta do it a
Yeah.
lot. Well,
Well,
thank you so
we do
much.
have, oh, my pleasure. And thank you so much, Barry, for taking the time to do this. Is greatly appreciated.
You bet.
And for everyone else here, we are now moving to the next segment, which is going to be Tim and Mars, our student success team, answering any questions that you might have regarding Animation Mentor and learning animation. So definitely feel free to ask some questions here. And once again, Barry, thank you so much. Like, it was so greatly appreciated.
Bye, everybody.
Super cool. Thanks. Thanks, Barry.
You bet.
Tim and Mars, feel free to take it away. It's your time now.
Woo! It's our time down here. Our time.
Wow. You know what I like about rules?
They're made to be broken.
You damn Skippy. I love that. That's what I always liked about them. You know what I mean? Gives you something to do.
That's awesome.
Very cool. Yeah, that was awesome, man.
Yeah, and Bo kind of nailed it on the head too, because that's what I was thinking. Watching this the whole time was just bringing it back to the principles. That's what it's all about. And it's so interesting too, because we talk to students sometimes that apply for advanced placement. and they're looking to be placed in, or they're hoping to be placed in class 5 or 6, or some very, very high level class.
Yeah.
But we take a look at their work, and there's the timing, the spacing, the weights off. Something catches our great mentors' eyes when they're reviewing that work, and they're like, no, not quite yet.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's a little disappointment there, but man, I think it's a good thing. It's better that we're catching it now, because you don't want to hear that from a hiring studio that, yeah, you need to still work on your principles. It's better that we catch it and
Yeah.
help you kind of correct some of those areas. But yeah, that was great to hear that from Barry.
Yeah, an interesting, point with some of that stuff, because I'm seeing some names on there that look familiar. Is that, I had one of the people that are on this chat right here that had actually been submitting lots of demo reels
Oh,
to
okay.
studios, and just being told no, but
Uh,
not being told why it was a no,
right. Yeah.
and that was a big deal. And so sending their reel over here was great, because we had one of our mentors look at it, and they didn't tell them no, right? All they
Yeah.
did was break down what looked good about it, what didn't look so good, how can we fix it?
Right.
You
Right.
know,
Yeah. And that's the
and
feedback you'll get here.
that's the feedback that you get, because I don't think that a lot of studios, are going to be telling you the reasons why it's a no. Sometimes you need
No.
somebody to keep it real with you.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes they just
Yeah.
move on to the next one, because they probably have so many applications and demo reels to go through.
Yeah.
They know what they're looking for.
Yeah, for
Well,
sure.
a couple of shout outs real quick, because everyone's saying hi to us. Kaiser, hello to you.
Yep.
Hey Jay Sean. Arlie,
Yep.
hello. Michaela, Sophie,
Michaela, we leader, right?
Valentina, all these highs. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool.
You guys make us feel, semi-famous.
Yeah, good squad popping in. Very cool. Yep, yep. Cool. Yeah, that was an awesome one. We had seen Barry before in one of our other workshops that he did. I believe he did one with Sean Sexton, I think, and maybe Gonzo. I think he had done one of these before, and it was super enlightening to hear that. And
Nice.
looking at some of the stuff, I recognize a lot of stuff that he was showing there, especially from the game side, were amazing to see, especially when you see all the broken limbs that you see, that, you
Right.
know what I mean, when they're slowed down or frozen, frozen frame, and you get to see it and you're like, wow, that doesn't look right. But then click and play, you're like, it looks totally normal. And I think that part was super cool to see. But then boiling it back to what Bo was saying, right? All that stuff is
Yeah.
cool and it's all
Yeah.
trickery, right? But it does boil down to all the principles for sure.
Yeah, and that's awesome. Yeah, and just want to remind you, if you do have questions about Animation Mentor, because the chat goes by so fast, throw those in the Q&A, so we can make sure we catch them. But I do see here there's a few questions in here.
Yeah.
Rachel's got a good basic one. I'd like to know how AM works. I don't know anything about it, so that's a great
Yeah.
question. So Animation Mentor is an online animation school. We were established in 2005. I won't go through all of the history,
Tell me more.
but
Yeah.
yeah, been around for 20 years now. We're entirely online. There's no physical campus, so you can learn from anywhere. And we specialize in 3D character animation training for feature films,
Yep.
TV shows, video games. We do have 6-week courses in other areas as well. You can kind of think of these as supplemental courses, or sometimes like college electives. But the 18-month programs are what most students come to Animation Mentor for. And again, this is for 3D character animation and video games. And you get to learn directly from mentors like Barry.
Yeah.
And these are not just recorded, asynchronous courses. These are live. You do meet with a mentor and your classmates live every week. We have really small class sizes as well. And we can, if you've got more questions, please put that in the Q&A. But that's kind of an overview. Anything I missed, Tim?
No, you nailed it. I mean, that campus tour video might help too, with
Oh
some
yeah,
of that stuff. That would be a
that's a good
cool one,
one.
because it gives you like a video look at that. Jessely, below the age of 18, could I still take a class, or do I have to wait till I'm of age? Also, I saw on the website that you can choose a mentor you want to have. Is that right? Well, first off, we have plenty of students that are under the age
Yeah,
of 18 that are
we do.
studying with us. Most of them start with the Maya course to begin with, because
Yep.
it's a great starting point. So definitely look at that. And that part is true about choosing your mentor. So we send you a list of mentors and you kind of see the studios that they're working at, you see the schedules that they're on, and you get to choose one of those people. So every time you go to a new class, whether it's a 6-week course or one of our 12-week courses, you actually get to choose a new mentor. And it's somebody that's already working in the industry that has a massive amount of films or games under their belt. So good question,
Nice.
Jesse Lee.
Yep. And Aditya's got one here. Say, if a student is learning animation and visual effects, will they be able to apply for a job at Riot Games? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Our graduates certainly do. But I like to be, completely honest, transparent with students. Most of our graduates, are not usually going straight into working at major studios directly after graduation. Usually,
Yeah.
grads are working at small to medium-sized studios. They need to get some production level content on their demo reel before moving into a big studio like Riot. But on the other hand, it does happen. I can definitely think of students that have graduated from AM and have gone straight into working at major studios. Those students have exceptional demo reels. They've also made really great connections along the way. And so they're very good at networking. They're connecting with people. They're probably speaking with people in the studios while they were studying at Animation Mentor. So I wouldn't say it's not possible. I would say it's not typical. But our graduates definitely do end up at major animation studios. There may be a couple of steps in between that, though.
Yeah. Hey, Luis, Mars kind of answered some of that, which is, how it's done, right? Lecture based versus a live broadcast of your teacher. It's a little bit of both of that stuff, but the live Q&As, everything, plus the dailies are like a big part of what we do here. Check out that online campus tour because it'll give you a really good look at, how the courses are actually done. Bengusu, I hope I pronounced that right. I'm thinking I did. I feel like I'm pretty good with that one. Where can we learn about prices? Well, it's actually on the site. I'll bet you it's going to be popping up here any second now on this particular thread. But keep this in mind for the price side of things. We have payment plans. We got a lot
Yep.
of new ones, as a matter of fact, that we've
Yeah.
just implemented, which are super cool. Very
Interest free.
affordable for a lot of interest free, which is kind of nice. So cool. And Amazon prices are posted on their site, but definitely that link will probably be popping up. I just know on the back end we're super good with that kind of stuff.
Cool. And then got more questions popping over here in the Q&A panel. So thank you for putting those in there. Valera's asking, do you have a certification course for storyboarding? Not at the moment. Those are our shorter courses, the 6-week courses. We've got 2 levels. We've got an intro and an intermediate storyboarding. As I mentioned, those shorter 6-week courses are more supplemental or like college electives. So they're great courses, definitely enough to get you started, but they're not certificate courses. We do offer certificates once you complete either of our 18-month 3D character animation or 3D game animation programs. Good question.
Yep, cool. And yeah, let me take a look here. Yeah, and Valentina, yeah, what any tips for the beginners? Yeah, if you're new to this stuff, you've never done it. That Maya course is everything. It really is. It's 6 weeks. But that is an impactful 6 weeks because without it, it's tough. Even if you're a Blender user, taking the Maya course is a really big deal because it'll help you to sort of translate some of those Blender skills into Maya. But if you're a super noob to this kind of stuff, do the Maya thing first and then jump into animation basics afterwards. And then hopefully progress into body mechanics and advanced body mechanics and so on. And so the cool thing about the way that our structure is that we've got these 2 really main courses that we offer here, our programs. Pardon me, we've got our game animation program,
Yep.
which is an 18-month program. Then
Yep.
we also have our character animation program, which is also
18 months.
18 months, right? Exactly.
Year and a half.
Exactly, year and a half. So the first 3 courses, which are animation basics, body mechanics, and advanced body mechanics, they're the first 3 courses for either one of those programs.
Fundamental.
Boom. Where it changes is when you get to class 4, intro to acting, advanced acting. Yep.
Fork in the road.
The fork in the road. And then feature animation, acting, and polish would be the character animation side. But if you're not so much into acting and lip sync and things like that, and you want to get more into the minutia, shall I say, of game animation, then you're
Unreal.
going right, exactly, unreal, exactly. Then you're going into my god,
Game animation mechanics.
mechanics and gameplay, and then combat.
Yep.
And then cinematic cutscenes.
Yep.
Would be where you'd be headed into the game side of things. Using Unreal, using Maya are going to be like your big deals in that particular program.
Awesome. I got your back, Tim.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
My brain
Sometimes you just,
goes into loading mode
yeah,
sometimes.
right. Yeah. Spinning wheel.
Kaiser's got a good one here. What's the workload like? Is it feasible while working full time? Is it possible to do more than one class at a time? Great questions. So the workload, it varies by course. I think it starts off. It does really vary. I tell students 8 to 12 hours per week with some of the starting courses. But I've heard some mentors say that you should be spending 30 hours more a week on your assignments in some of the more advanced courses. So it is a lot of work, even if you're taking one course per term. But I would say, I don't know, what do you think, Tim? I think more than half of our students are probably taking classes at other colleges or universities, or working part-time or even full-time like Kaiser is. I mean, I know you talk to as many students as I do, but lots of them are working. Lots of our students have jobs, and some of our students have their own families too. So I do think it's possible. I think what it really comes down to is proper time management. So making sure that you're really allocating the time to do your assignments, at least 5 days a week, I think is pretty good.
Yeah.
These aren't the type of assignments you can kind of cram on Saturday night and try and get everything done. So, making sure that you budget the time for that. And then in terms of taking more than one class at a time, I always advise students start off with one class first. I've had some students go against my advice, and then they came crawling back to me. They're like, Mars, I should have listened to you. That happens. But yeah, start off with a single course, even though that may seem light compared to a traditional, art college or university workload. But these are pretty serious courses. So, start off with a single course, and then the courses in either the 3D character or game animation program, those are tiered or stepwise. So you do need to successfully pass and complete one course to get to the next one. So you can't take those simultaneously, but you could take a 6-week short course and a character animation or game animation program course at the same time. That is possible.
Yep. Very cool. Yeah. Here's a good one right here too. So, Jessely, for the Maya course, do I have to pay for the software, or is it already provided by AM? Great question, because Maya is not cheap, right?
Right.
If you were to, purchase their subscription. So we've got, a couple of options that people use to get Maya here. They'll either use the Maya license server, which is free, right? So you don't have to pay for Maya. And then some will also go for the student license as well. So if you're, also going to be using that side of things, basically you just, once you've registered for a class, you'll receive an email, right, that shows you that you're actually registered. And in some cases, you can send that over to Autodesk and request the student license of Maya. And again, student license is also free, but nonetheless, at the end of the day, you're not paying for Maya.
$3.99.
Yeah, I like that.
So Kristen Norris, that name sounds familiar. I think we may have spoken before,
Yeah.
but she had a similar question. I think I answered that with Kaiser's question. So hopefully
Yep.
you got your answer there.
Yep.
Let us know if you have any other questions. Let's see here. Simon Williams has a question. Can we pick what days we can choose classes? What if we have a job that will conflict with the class schedule? So yes, you do get to choose your mentor, your day, your class day and time. So it's really important when you're choosing your class that you do find something that fits your schedule. We have a pretty wide variety of schedules. As I mentioned, we're entirely online. So that means we don't have students just here in the US. We've got students all around the world in many, many different time zones and countries. So we do try to accommodate as many of those around the world. So again, yeah, it's really super important that when you're choosing your class, you do pick something that does fit into your schedule. Now, there's going to be some times when you might miss a class. There might be an emergency, or you got called into work or something like that. What I tell students is, treat Animation Mentor like you would a job. Don't just skip out on your class. Reach out to your mentor. Let them know that you're going to miss class that week. You can't make it. Also, our live Q&As are not recorded. And so what I tell students is check in with a classmate. If you do miss a class, you don't want to, but if you do, then check in with a classmate and see what you missed. And that's a great way to get caught up and make a friend along the way too.
Yeah, and you don't want to miss too many of those for sure.
No.
Gift K, do you have anything to help those who can't afford the courses right now? Great question on there, because we know times are tight, and depending on where you live, currency exchange rates aren't so good, right? At some,
Right.
and even in the US, geez, man,
That's true.
it's tough everywhere. And so, for students that have submitted great applications to the school with great essays that they've written, right? Things like that, and they express, financial difficulties and things like that, you just got to reach out to Mars and myself,
Yep.
because in certain cases we do have some things that we can help out with. You won't see them say on the website or anything like
Right.
that.
Right.
So it basically boils down to you meeting with Mars and myself to
Yeah.
actually kind of talk about that. So even
Let's,
though we're an
let's
online
talk.
school, we work with every student that comes through here to make sure that they know what's going on, they know what they're getting into. If there's some financial situations that they're also being, faced with, how can we help you to get past that and actually be able to learn animation with us? Reach out to us, right? And so
Yeah.
there are ways to make it work. Not for everybody, but we've helped a lot of students, especially in this last summer class. We helped out
Yeah.
so many students. And we're not tooting our own horns or anything like that, but it's true. There's a lot of students that were not able to attend until we actually had a conversation and figured out, oh, this is what we might need to do to make this work.
Yeah. That's all it takes. Let's set up a phone call, a Zoom chat. Let's talk about your situation, and
Yep.
we can see what we can do for you. That's awesome.
Yep.
Jose Raul has a question here.
Ooh.
There are some rigging classes. No, we don't have rigging courses at the moment. We do cover 3D character modeling. Animation, as we mentioned, is our specialty. We can definitely help there. We don't have any rigging courses. However, we had a rigging webinar from a couple of months ago, right? So you can
Yeah,
check
we
out
did.
the past webinars on our site as well. If you go to our blog and search rigging as well, you might have something turn up there. Thanks for the question.
Good one. I like it. Ba, 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 ba. Let's take a look. What else? There's a lot of great questions that was on here. And I had one. Been doing live action feature film production for over 15 years. Have recently become interested in animation. Is there a curriculum specifically for animation producing? No, not right now. There is not. But I wanted to read that one because that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
That you're doing that. That type of stuff as a career. That's neat. So, but if you want to look into this, definitely reach out to us, because I think that your film background and animation, even as a noob coming in, you're probably going to be able to learn a lot. If you're going to go into producing animated movies, it would be kind of nice if you also knew how to animate as well. Speak the language that these animators are
right,
speaking it as well.
right.
Just a thought.
Yep. I'm seeing here in the chat a little bit of Blender versus Maya chat, the
Oh,
chatter that that always kind of happens. And if you noticed when Barry was talking, he wasn't really necessarily talking about Maya or Blender. He
no.
was talking about the 12 principles of animation, and I think that that's really kind of software. It doesn't really matter which software you're using. Now, as some people were saying in the chat here, Maya definitely is the industry standard. I would say what 99% of our mentors here from Disney, Pixar, DreamWorks, Industrial Light and Magic, Sony, they're Maya pros. So I think it's important to kind of learn what the industry standard is. But Blender is a great software to start off
Yeah.
with. That's it's free, which is great. And I think that's why most students start off with it. But I think a majority of studios prefer applicants with Maya experience. But again, if you're a great animator and you know the 12 principles of animation and you know body mechanics and you have great acting skills, you should be able to use any software, to be honest. And there's
It's a
another
tool.
webinar on that too. There's
Yeah.
another great webinar on that.
I mean, it's just a tool, right?
That's it.
So,
That's it.
if
Right.
you can animate well, whether it's in Blender or Maya, that's what
Right.
they're looking for. It's important to note. So we talk a lot about, our character animation programs, but in the game animation program, but we do offer a wide variety of other, courses. We do our 3D modeling courses, which are great
Yep.
with Hong Chen Lim. So we've got
Mhm.
modeling one for games and then modeling 02 for games. There's really cool stuff that they're doing in there using Unreal, not Unreal, but using ZBrush
ZBrush.
and Maya in that course. Those ones are super sweet. Those are going to be starting on September 29th.
Yep.
Is when those are going to be actually starting. Now, we've got a bunch of our 6-week courses also starting in August on the 11th, which is our
Yep.
Maya course, our
Maya.
storyboarding courses,
Yep.
our previs courses, our VizDev, visual development courses. I believe VizDev is running at that point in time. What else will be running at that point on August 11th?
We got, did you say 2D animation already?
2D
2D?
animation, both of them. We're doing 2D animation for beginners and our 2D animation
Intermediate?
character movement and walk cycles.
Yep. Yep.
We'll also be running there with Jay Jackson and T Dan Hofstett, which are amazing mentors.
Yep.
Whether you're a Toon
Disney
Boom
guys.
user or a rough animator user, or whatever you're working with, you can jump into those 2D courses, and they're awesome. 6-week courses.
Yep.
Super cool. What else are we doing?
We got a bunch of stuff. Well, we're accepting applications for 2 different terms right now. So if you're interested in applying, and right now the soonest term you can apply for is the fall term. Tim just mentioned that's coming up September 29th, and you still have time to take that Maya course in the second half of our summer term. So it's a really good time to jump in. If you're an advanced planner and you're already thinking about winter, we're also accepting applications for our winter term that starts January 5th. So if you're an advanced planner and you're going to be available in the winter term, you can apply for that one. I always tell students, apply for the term that you plan on attending.
Yeah, plan ahead for sure. Yeah.
Cool. There's a few more questions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
This
they
is a
just
good
keep
one right here. Jessily's interesting too. She, if anybody wants an overview of animation going to AM, Sony is offering their Yellow Brick Sony course, various aspects of the industry from animating to directing. She's currently taking it as well. So yeah, that is something that they're doing. And after you're done with the Yellow Brick course, maybe drop on over here to Animation Mentor. There are some differences in there. We actually teach the animation side of it. That part of it is super cool to pick up some information and, like she's mentioning, insights. But if you want information on, let's say, the pricing of our courses, definitely Mars and I can help you out with that and talk to you about our payment plans too, if it's something that you are interested in looking at. But thanks for plugging that, Jessely.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you work for Yellow Brick?
I know, right? What's your email address?
Let's see here.
Look
Cool.
at Kinga's got one. Jason. Kinga's an awesome mentor for the intro to Maya. She got a shout out.
Oh, yes, she is. She is awesome. She was actually my student when she first started as a student here at Animation Mentor. Look at her now.
Look at her getting shouts.
Cool. Let's see. Yashvi's got one here. I'm self-learning animation. What steps would you recommend that I should follow to build a strong foundation? Well, I don't know if this is going to be helpful, but my advice is to get a mentor.
Yeah.
but I mean, honestly, I mean, that's where you really, can really thrive and grow as an artist. You need to get that feedback at a professional level. You can learn quite a bit on your own. There's good tutorials and videos. But my question to those, that are going that self-learning route is, what are you going to do when you get stuck? How are you going to get the helpful feedback that you need, without having a mentor to kind of guide you along the way? Animation is not one of those things that you can really kind of get to that professional level on your own. You really need to have that guidance of somebody who's done it before to break you through to that next level.
Yeah.
It's almost like a personal trainer, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Hey, Holly. Holly's an AM alum. Are there refresher courses for it? You know what, Holly? I don't know if you know this, but as alum, you still get to log into the student campus and access your profile, which also means you could jump into all your previous lectures on the training tab for free. So you don't need to go back in. Now, if you want to jump in to take another class, you also do get a repeat a course discount as well. And so if that's something that you want to do and you want to refresh your skills, but also have that mentor feedback and live Q&As and all that stuff, you do get that as an alum. But if you just want to go back and revisit some of your previous lectures or some of your previous work, or maybe you're just working on shots and you're like, I don't know if it's any good or not, let me post it on the campus feed and see what people think about it. You also have that access. It never gets closed up either.
Always available.
Always available.
That's awesome. A couple of quick questions. We're just at about time here, but really great question here. We're going to kind of end up with this. So Vanessa, I'll answer your question in a moment. Sophie was asking about Tim Ingersoll's character design class. Stay tuned on the activity newsfeed on campus about that. We will announce that there. I'm not quite sure. Do you know when that's going to be available?
I do not. I
don't either. Yeah, I don't either. So yeah,
I thought I was teaching something I didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this is Tim Ingersoll's class. Cool. And then Vanessa, I think this is a great question to end up with here. So Vanessa's asking, how can I contact Mars and or Tim for any future questions or concerns about Animation Mentor? Great question. So lots of ways to get a hold of us. The easiest way is to send an email to admissions@animationmentor.com. You can go to our website too and go scroll down to contact us, and there's a phone number there. You can call us or text us there. We check, pretty much messages everywhere. We check
All the time. Yeah.
Instagram, Facebook. We check our LinkedIn inbox as well. You know what I found, Tim, recently? I don't even know if anyone did this, but there was a TikTok inbox. I replied to a
Oh,
message there. We had a message sitting in there, and I was like, "Oh, there's a message in there." So we will check those TikTok messages as well. So yeah, we check all of the inboxes. But yeah, Tim and I have that shared email address. It goes right to both of us, admissions@animationmentor.com. Please feel free to send messages there. And what we do too is email is a good place to start. And sometimes, conversations arise, and we get, email is not the best method of communication. We'll set up a meeting with you. We'll have a phone call or WhatsApp
Yep.
call or a Zoom call or whatever it may be.
Zoomage.
Whatever Zoomage, a Zoomer, as we call them sometimes. We'll definitely make time for you. And if you've got additional questions, and thank you to Serja, she just put that in there for us as well.
Ooh,
But yeah, thank you. Tons of great questions. Hopefully this is helpful for you.
crazy amount of questions.
Yeah, and I think Bo's coming back maybe, or maybe the camera cables are loose. I'm not quite sure.
There he is. He's popping back in.
No, I'm still an empty void. My
Oh,
camera
yeah,
is
yeah,
not
he's in a
playing.
dark room.
Oh.
Oh, there it is.
Ah,
I don't know if everyone else saw it. For a second, it looked like a horror movie came on. It was all distorted and weird. Well, thank you, Mars and Tim, for jumping in and answering all those questions. It's always fun to hang out with you guys, even if I'm just lurking in the shadows.
I know you're lurking. We love you when you're lurking.
And thank you, everyone here, for hanging out, for asking all of those questions. And hopefully you enjoyed both parts of this webinar, this awesome workshop. So hopefully we'll see you again in the next one. If you have any more questions, definitely feel free to reach out. We'd love to hear more from you. And have a great week.
All right.
Take
See
care,
you next time.
everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.